sun rose lazily over the rolling hills of UMONI village, its golden rays spilling over mud huts and rippling through the cassava fields. Roosters crowed, women's laughter floated from the riverbank, and the aroma of firewood smoke mingled with the crisp morning air. But for Dan, this was just another day of survival. He had woken to the growl of his empty stomach, the same growl that had been his alarm for the last 2 weeks. He lived in a small, leaky hut on the edge of the village, where cracked clay walls told stories of rains that refused to be kind. His mother had died when he was 12, and his father, a palm wine tapper, had followed her 3 years later after falling from a tall palm tree. Since then, Dan had been living from odd jobs, weeding people's farms, carrying loads in the market, and sometimes fishing in the shallow river with borrowed nets. He had dreams once to build a shop in the village, to own goats and cows, to marry and raise children who would never taste hunger. But those dreams now felt like faraway clouds, always there, always drifting, never raining on his life. That morning, as he walked barefoot to the market, he muttered to himself, Dan the dreamer, but dreams don't fill the belly. It was market day, and the square was full of noise. Hawkers calling out prices, goats bleating, drums beating somewhere in the distance. Dan had just finished carrying a sack of yams for an old man in exchange for a few coins when he saw her. She was standing under the big mango tree at the edge of the market, her beauty so startling that it seemed the world paused to look. Ada, though he didn't yet know her name, had skin the color of ripe cola, eyes that seemed to see right through you, and a smile that felt like morning after a long night. She was dressed simply, but there was something regal in the way she held herself, like she belonged to a different world. She watched him as he approached, her eyes steady. Dan, she said softly. He froze. How do you know my name? Ada smiled faintly. I know more than your name. I know your hunger. I know your dreams. I know the way you cry when no one is looking. Dan's heart pounded. Who are you? I am a friend sent by destiny. Ada didn't ask for much, just a little of his time. She led him away from the noise of the market to the quiet shade of an abandoned warehouse by the river. I came here because I heard your cry, she began. Not the cry from your mouth, but the cry from your soul. Dan didn't understand, but he listened. Her voice was like wind over water. I will help you. I will make sure you never sleep hungry again. He almost laughed. And how will you do that? With magic? Ada only smiled and handed him a small pouch. Inside were strange coins, glistening stones, and a folded note. Take these to the big city, she said. Sell them, invest the money, start the business you've always dreamed of. In 6 months, you will be rich. Dan stared at her, his hands trembling. Why me? Ada's eyes softened. Because you are my soulmate, but her tone darkened. I am not meant to be your wife. They sat in silence for a long moment before Dan finally asked, if you're my soulmate, why can't you be my wife? Ada's gaze dropped to the ground. Because my destiny was written before I was born. I am your soul, the one sent ahead of your real wife to prepare you for her. My task is to lift you from the dust so you can meet her standing tall. Dan's chest tightened. And how will I find her? From a leather bag, Ada pulled out 2 items. A delicate gold ring, set with a single blue stone, and a pair of beautifully embroidered leather sandals. Your real wife will have the matching ring and matching sandals, she explained. She will also be kind, generous, and of good morals. When you find her, you will know, for her heart will mirror yours. Dan took the items slowly. And until then, you will search, Ada said, rising, from one woman to another, until destiny brings her to you. Dan did as Ada said. He took the pouch to the city, found a trusted jeweler, and discovered the coins were centuries old, Portuguese trade currency worth a fortune. He sold them, bought a plot of land, and started a grain supply business. 6 months later, the same young man who used to beg for leftover gari was now the owner of 3 large trucks, employing 30 workers and supplying food to markets in 3 towns. His clothes were fine, his shoes new, and his name carried respect. Yet, every time he looked at the ring and the sandals Ada had given him, his heart ached. He had tried, twice, to ask her to marry him. Both times, she refused gently. I have given you my task, she told him the last time they met. Now, go and fulfill yours. Dan's search became the talk of the village and beyond. He would meet women at weddings, at the market, during festivals, and after a short conversation, he would ask, "Do you have a ring and a pair of sandals like this?" Some laughed, some looked confused, others shook their heads politely. A few even lied, thinking his wealth made him easy prey. But when they failed to produce the matching set, he would move on. Months turned into years. Dan grew richer, but his bed stayed empty. Friends teased him. Dan, just marry any good woman. Forget this fairy tale. But Dan remembered Ada's eyes when she said, her heart will mirror yours. He couldn't let go. It was during the annual New Yam Festival, 5 years after Ada had changed his life, that Dan saw her. She was sitting by the river, washing clothes, her laughter mixing with the splash of water. Something about her made the world tilt for Dan. Her name was Chinwe, visiting from another village. They talked. She was intelligent, humble, and spoke of caring for her widowed mother with such warmth that Dan's heart ached. After 2 hours of talking, he almost didn't ask, but habit and hope pushed the words out. Chinwe, do you by any chance have a ring like this and sandals like these? Chinwe's eyes widened. Slowly, she reached into the cloth bundle beside her. Out came a gold ring with a blue stone. Then, carefully wrapped, a pair of embroidered leather sandals. Dan's breath caught. They matched perfectly. Chinwe told him her side of the story. Years ago, a strange, beautiful woman had come to her home after hearing her sing at a festival. The woman had handed her the ring and sandals, saying, "One day, a man will show you these. He is your husband." Chinwe had kept them safe, never understanding, until now. Dan's heart pounded as he realized Ada had known all along. She had prepared both of them, like pieces in a puzzle waiting to meet. The wedding was the grandest Umuwas had seen in years. Villagers came from miles away, carrying gifts and singing praises. Dan and Chinwe exchanged vows under the same mango tree where Dan had first met Ada. During the reception, Dan slipped away for a moment, walking to the riverbank. He didn't say Ada, but he felt her presence in the wind, warm and approving. "Thank you," he whispered. Dan and Chinwe's marriage was blessed with love, prosperity, and laughter. And though he never saw Ada again, he kept her ring and sandals in a special place, a reminder that sometimes the people meant to change our lives are not meant to stay, only to guide us to where we truly belong. The story teaches us that true love sometimes arrives in 2 parts. one to prepare you, and one to stay forever. This has been another chapter from City Stories, where every tale finds its home. If you enjoyed the journey, give it a like and subscribe so you never miss the next adventure.